Hello and welcome to the Staunch Talk Show. My name is Princess Mahogo and I'm super excited to be here today. We're going to be talking about one of those topics that I think are really important for some of the people out there. So you might be dealing with some issues with your company, your boss, your spouse, or anyone that you've gotten into some sort of legal agreement with. So joining us today is Nthabiseng Dubazana, a very nice attorney that I recently met. And she's going to be helping us to explain this topic and understand it a bit better. So basically today we're going to be talking about the importance of reading your contract and understanding it before signing. And if maybe you are in one of those situations where you've already signed and you never really understood what it is that you agreed to, she is the person to talk to. And she is the founder of Nthabiseng Dubazana Attorneys. And yeah, you can call her whenever you need help. She will be giving us details as to how you can get in touch with her a bit later on the show. But for now, let's welcome her. Welcome, Nthabiseng, and thank you so much for making time to join us.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait. It's been a very interesting topic that we're having today.
Yes. So she's quite a busy person, so make sure to book your appointments in time. I literally waited like 6 months to get this interview. So
it's not that bad.
Just joking. Just joking. It was 3 weeks. It's a joke. But welcome to the show and thank you so much for joining us. So just to start off, let's firstly briefly explain what is a contract, what is a short-term contract, what is a long-term contract.
So a contract is an agreement between two parties that X is going to deliver goods and maybe Y is going to bring in certain amount of cash for those goods. Or it's an agreement in terms of services and goods, or it's an agreement between goods and goods. So it depends on the parties, what it is that they want to agree upon. So what I always do is that when you come to me to assist you in drafting a contract, I want the other party present. So that I can write all your wishes down on one page and on that page, and then I see how we merge both in order to formulate a contract. So it is an agreement between two parties that they are agreeing that this is going to be the obligations of X, this is going to be the obligations of Y, and what the consequences are should either party fail to adhere to their part of the obligation, and then taking it from there. That's basically the long and short of what a contract is.
And then what is the importance of having a contract when you are getting into an agreement with someone? So not one that is verbal. So the written one. What is the importance of having the written and signed contract?
It is a lot easier to prove an agreement between two parties when it's penned down on paper. Not saying that verbal agreements are not seen as agreements in court or contracts, right? Because what the court does is that they look at, let's talk about specifically the verbal contract. So you and I agreed that we're going to have this interview, and then thereafter there should be X amount that should be paid for that, for argument's sake. Now, this is proof that there was the agreement, right? Because the video is there. It's showing that there was an action upon what was verbally agreed upon, which means the shortfall ought to come as a result, because there's already something that's already happened pertaining to the agreement, the verbal agreement between the parties. So it's just a matter of proving to the court to say that after we spoke, I sent an email, I then went to go buy something and then delivered it to so-and-so, and then with the expectancy that I'm going to get refunded or given an X amount of money for that work. And the court now looks basically between the lines to say, yeah, no, I can see there was an expectancy. It couldn't have been that Nthabiseng just went and did this out of the goodness of their heart, because it wouldn't make sense. They don't even know you from a bar of soap. And then the court then says, yes, we agree, there was a verbal contract. As a result, Y is obligated now to fulfill their end of the bargain, or put X in the position that he or she would have been in had they not been in agreement. So in other words, refund X, whatever money, well, you can't refund time, but whatever money would have been used by X to fulfill that part of the agreement. So it's just too much work to prove a verbal contract. Just write things down. It's a lot easier
to prove.
Yes.
And then when it comes to people not understanding or not fully reading the contracts that they sign, please talk to us about the importance of going through the contract and the importance firstly of having a legal representative, so a lawyer. Having a lawyer, why it's important to have a lawyer, why it's important to read contracts that you are going to sign, and understanding the contents of the contract.
Yeah, so first of all, don't ever feel pressured to sign a contract. There's always a cool-off period. So once the contract has been handed to you, the cool-off period can be between 3 to 7 days. For you to go hand it to somebody to read it for you, to make sure that your rights and you are protected at the end of the day. So do not ever feel pressurized to sign a contract. And if somebody says, well, if you leave, then we're going to give this contract to somebody, it wasn't meant for you. Leave it alone, because you're going to find yourself in a mess. Now, having said that, before 1988 or 86, somewhere there, it used to be that ignorance of the law was an excuse. And then there was a case, I think it was S versus Poisons. I don't remember the citation, but I think it was S versus Poisons. And she pled ignorance. It was a criminal matter. She pled ignorance of the law, and then the court said, no, we're not going to take that as a reason for you to act the way that you had. I think it was a theft matter. And as a result of that, it went, at the time there was no constitutional court, so it went to the appellate division, and the appellate division, which is now what we know as the SCA, then confirmed it. So since then, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So you cannot say, but I didn't know, I didn't understand, it's not going to be a defense. Forget about that. So when you have a contract, go through it with somebody who understands the language that is in there, so they can advise you if it's for your benefit or it's not going to benefit you at all. And if it's not going to benefit you, then ask them, or rather inform your attorney what it is that you want out of this, right? So they can note it down on the contract for you, and then you can take it back to the person with whom you're busy negotiating this thing with. And if there's an agreement, great. If there's none, it wasn't meant for you. I know sometimes we feel that this is what I was looking for, and if I don't do this, I'm going to miss out. But if the contract is blindsiding you, or basically making you a slave to that work or to that contract, it is not for your benefit.
And in most cases, if it is rushed, so like you have 24 hours to sign this, something is fishy.
Something is fishy. Something is really fishy. I have read contracts that have left my jaw on the floor because I didn't understand. How is it that it is a situation where this person you're in partnership with, and it's usually employer-employee contracts, and then that employer is you are basically the slave of that employer. You can't sneeze without this person's permission. It becomes that ridiculous and that confining. So find somebody who's going to read these things for you. Even if you go to legal aid, to have somebody go through that contract to advise you for free on what needs to be done, please do that. Vets has a law clinic. Go to the law clinic, ask for help. Attorneys, I know we have fees, and just for that consultation you'll pay an X amount, but that amount that you're going to pay just to get some clarity on that versus whatever is coming for the next 2 to 3 years or longer is a benefit. So rather spend that money and know that you are in a contract that makes sense
and that will benefit you
in
a good way.
Yes.
And then speaking around the issue of people signing contracts without thoroughly going through them, or having a legal representative or someone who understands hence the jargon that is used in the contracts. We've seen a lot of artists, especially in our music industry in South Africa, struggling with some of the contracts they've signed. And for the better part of it, I do understand how they get into those contracts, because we all know that we have a huge unemployment problem in South Africa, which causes people to take decisions in the heat of the moment. And I think a lot of employers are so aware of this. They show you the manifest, and they know that after seeing those numbers, your brain is not going to work. You're not going to think things through. You're just going to be thinking about, I could be making so much money by the end of the month, or in this short amount of time. And then that ends up leading people to signing contracts that cause them frustration in the long or short run. So we've seen a lot of artists come out and talk about how they've signed contracts where, for example, it is listed that they are supposed to release, say, 5 albums before they can be able to get out of this contract. But then they come out to tell the public about how they are not being allowed to make music. Maybe they just release 1 album, and after that, the publisher of their music is not allowing them to, or the company they signed with, rather, the record deal label is not allowing them to make music. So if someone is in that kind of a situation, what kind of help can they seek? Where can they go to seek help? What kind of steps can they take to try rectify? Because you're already in that situation. So now the best you can do is try rectify it, and maybe do some negotiating with the person you are in agreement with in terms of the contract. So please just explain that for us.
So like I said, ignorance of the law is no longer an excuse. So basically you are bound by what you have signed. Having said that, the courts have decided to distinguish between contracts that are acceptable and not acceptable. So a contract cannot be contra bonis mores. In other words, it cannot be in bad faith. It can't be against the law, right? It can't be a slavery contract. So it must never be made in bad faith. So if you feel you are in a situation wherein you are not getting the benefits that you were expecting out of this contract, you feel like you're being used, everything about the contract is wrong, approach an attorney, let them read through the contract, right? And then when they read through the contract, if they can see from the way it is drafted that it's contra bonis mores, then we have ground to take it to the court to say, when we look at clause 8, it refers to this. But when you look at the rule of law, it is against the rule of law to do or to make such a clause applicable in a contract, so that we can see how best we can help you out of that situation. And then the court, obviously, or the opposing party rather, is going to say, but you signed knowing what is happening. And then we go back to the time frame, So at minimum, you were supposed to give me 3 days. At minimum, for me to at least understand what's happening, go see an attorney somewhere so that I know what it is that I'm getting into. You told me that if I walk out of the door of the studio, I am losing the contract. And as a result, I felt pressure. And I didn't have the privilege to go through this and understand what is happening. So you're building a case as a result of that. And then the court will then weigh both sides and say, based on the evidence on both sides, and of course lots of cases, there's a ton of cases that you can refer based on that, and then the court will make a decision based on the information before it. But please find somebody who can understand that contract for you. Don't feel pressured to sign contracts. I mean, like I was saying to you earlier, I found myself dealing with a lot of people like this, and it forced me to buy books to learn more on that. There's a whole section like this on entertainment law and the basic of basic contracts. And then when you read the basic contracts of what producers should be making in terms of shows like this for whatever production company versus what they actually get, or the kinds of the SLAs that they're supposed to be agreeing upon, worlds apart. And yet we have actual legal documentation that you can just refer to. All you just need to do is edit it to make it suit your
case.
Exactly, that's it. But it is worlds apart. It is very sad.
And then let's talk about maybe the kinds of legal representations that are out there that are available for people, because you find a lot of people not having lawyers because they claim or they say that the lawyers are expensive basically. So what kind of different legal representatives are there that people can then maybe take into consideration, just so then moving forward, they, you know, when you know better, you do better.
Yes.
So then maybe going forward, that could assist them in taking better decisions in terms of, okay, maybe then I could have a lawyer that I can have an agreement with, that I pay them this X amount of money a month, just so that if anything were to ever happen where I would need representation, then I know that I'm covered, instead of only noticing when I'm in a situation that, oh, shucks, I need help. Yeah.
So we have, like I said, legal aid. It's there. It's free of charge. But they have what we call a means test. So if you earn beyond a certain threshold, then you don't qualify for it. They assist. I think it went up sometime this year. When I was there many moons ago, it used to be 3.5, 4,000 rand. Then 4 years ago, when I resigned from legal aid, because I was in and out of legal aid. So when I resigned 4 years ago, it was sitting at around 7,000. From my understanding, it's gone up to 10,000 rand. So if you earn 10,000 rand and below, then they can help you free of charge. Then you'll be sorted there. So go find out, and then even if they can't take you on as a client, at least they can read through or hear you out, see if they can help you or give you advice based on whatever that is there. So you don't have to pay a consultation fee, right? And then, like I said, there's also the Vets Law Clinic. They're there. They can hear you out, help you out wherever that is necessary. Then there's legal insurance. So your clientele, they have legal insurance. There's legal wise, that's legal insurance. So illegal insurance is where an insurance company, you pay X amount in premium, and then in the event that you need an attorney, what they do is that they go on their panel of attorneys that are there. So different law firms sit on the panel there. So if a Dubazana attorney is sitting on the panel and they know they can deal with contracts and whatever, then they assign Dubazana attorneys this particular matter. Please assist this client and all of that. And those legal fees are paid by the insurance company and not you, because you've been paying a premium.
Yes.
And then thereafter, then like you were saying, there's a retainer when you pay an attorney directly, that, you know what, going forward, I would like you to be my legal representative for anything and everything that comes. I do not advise a retainer unless you have lots of money, because unlike legal insurance, it doesn't accumulate. So on the time when you need me, I'm working off a certain amount, it depreciates every month. So if you're paying me a 3,000, 4,000 rand retainer, if you don't use me in that month, that's it, it's gone.
Oh.
And then the next month, it's you're starting from scratch, you have to pay me again. That's basically, that's why I don't advise appointing an attorney on retainer unless you've got the funds to do so. Rather know that this is every time you have an issue, you know that usually let me speak for myself. The way that I choose to practice is that if I see that you are becoming a regular client, I'm not going to charge you a consultation fee with each and every different case that you have. One consultation fee is enough. So if one matter ends, or even in the middle of one matter, another matter arises on your side, we continue. You know, all you just need to do is you're topping out the deposit or whatever that is in there, and I deduct all your matters from that money and all of that. So it depends what the attorney's view of how they run their firm is. Attorneys are different in how they deal with things, and in terms of how their fees are. I remember I was once told my fees are too low, and I thought, okay, if you say so. But I think it just depends on the kind of attorney that you are dealing with, and how upfront they are with their work, because that's another different conversation for another day.
Yes. I think so as well. So talking about when people get into situations where something is agreed upon, but there is no paperwork to prove it. In this case, you verbally agreed on something with someone and things are not going the way they should be going. So for example, let's take the issue of lobola. Now I know I'm going to a whole topic that I'm not even involved in because I'm not married, but I've seen this be a conversation. Maybe this is something we should delve into more closely somewhere down the future, but since it's come up, it's the example that I can think of. Lobola, when someone has been lobolad, there is nothing that is really signed. It's an agreement between two families to come together. It's two parties coming together, and it's normally families being involved. And something happens in the marriage, and now someone wants to conduct the separation in a way that people who have signed a document conduct a separation. So in this case, where someone would want half of what we are married, and then now we were married, we paid lobola, and now we're parting ways. Now I want to take 50% of what you have, which is normally what we see in marriages where there's been a contract signed.
Yes.
So what happens in that situation? Someone is watching right now, they are going through a divorce, but they were only married via lobola.
Well, firstly, there's a misconception out there that Hamahadi lobola is paid, you're engaged. I don't know where people get that from. I don't get it, but in any event, even if $50 was just paid, there's also another misconception that he didn't finish off the mahari, or I wasn't taking gubo and then bantelaga nyoko and all of those things. I'm being accepted as the bride, therefore I'm not married. All those things don't apply. And I've got 3 cases actually that I was trying to settle right now so that we don't go litigation-wise, and the other parties are disputing that there's a marriage. Now, what usually happens during mahadi or lobola is that when the families come together, there's a little piece of paper that is signed, right? That says Nthabiseng and Princess from X's family were present, and then Z and W were present on behalf of Y, and we were discussing mahadi, and this is the X amount that we agreed upon, and then W amount was paid. The balance will be paid off over time. You see that piece of paper?
Very important.
Very important. And that's what binds everything. That's it. If that piece of paper exists, there is a marriage. And automatically, it's a marriage in community of property. Automatically. So if you want to be married out of community of property, see an attorney before the negotiations start. Sign an ANC before the negotiations start. Because if you decide to sign an ANC after mahadi, thinking it's an engagement, that ANC is null and void. It's not applicable because you've already been married in terms of the customary act. You know what I mean? So you are stuck. So in the event of a divorce, like I said, people tend to think it's an engagement, it wasn't a real marriage or whatever, and they just part ways and go on with their life. Whatever assets you're accumulating away from your ex-fiancé, those assets are that person's assets, and vice versa. Whatever debts you're accumulating, those debts are that. So if you are intending on, if you see the relationship is not going anywhere, please divorce. Just divorce. And it's irrelevant that it wasn't registered at Home Affairs because you have I think it's a 12-month window period to register your marriage, your customary marriage with Home Affairs and all of that. It's irrelevant. So now let's say there is no piece of paper that was signed by the families. That doesn't matter either. Either your family was there, they can attest to an affidavit and say, no, it was on this date and whatnot, and this is what happened and all of that. Even on his side,
So
they
witnesses.
there's witnesses. Oh, it gets better. What happens during Mahadi after the negotiations are done? We have our phones.
The pictures.
You see,
Technology.
you see, those things are used to prove that there was a marriage and it was celebrated and all of that. And what happens after Mahadi is paid? Usually you move in together, right? Therefore, you are living as husband and wife after Mahadi.
Okay.
You see?
You're just opening my eyes.
You
into
see?
more
More things that we don't think
We don't
these
think
things so
about
lightly.
it. We don't think about it, and unfortunately, most legal representatives, they read the act alone, apart from the commentaries and the case law. Last month there was a decision that was made, not earlier this month, wherein the parties, of course, the other one was disputing that there's a customary marriage, mainly because there was no acceptance of the bride, and therefore he is not married. The court said, you sent your family to her family to go ask for Mhopwa, right? Yes, and here is the letter that confirms that. You then went for lobola negotiations. This is the letter and an affidavit that confirms all of that. You then lived with this person for at least 6 months before you parted ways. Wherein is there no marriage? Because everything points toward the intention of marriage. It is irrelevant that the other customs were not followed. The fact that the act says there should be this, there's case law that has overruled that and therefore sees that as a marriage. So customs that go hand in hand with Mahadi are not a must for them to happen for your marriage to be recognized.
Sure. This is why you need a lawyer.
Yes.
This is why you need a lawyer, because I think because things have, especially cultural decisions and cultural things have been taken lightly for so long, it then gets passed on from generation to generation to a point where now it's getting a lot of people into trouble. Because I asked that question about lobola on purpose, even though the episode is not necessarily about marriage, but in a marriage there is an agreement that is reached. So that is it forms part of contracts basically, because there's an agreement between two parties. And I wanted to cater for those people that may be dealing with issues in their marriages, and maybe a person now wants to get out, but they don't know what it is or what processes they can follow in order to, tackle the issue that they have or get themselves out of that situation. Because also there will be these things where it's where you hear them say that once you've had a child with this man, you are damaged and you're no longer worthy to be someone else's wife and all those things, which makes people, a lot can be said that can cloud your judgment, and you end up staying in a marriage. As you said, people must get out if it no longer works for them. But in this case, when you have someone who understands all these legal implications, then they can advise you and you can take better decisions. Yes. So hopefully that will help a lot of people out in terms of their decision making moving forward. But it is advised that you get a legal representative. She might be the one to call. Yeah. If you are in and around Johannesburg, especially Gauteng, she might be the one to call. But before we let you go, load shedding. We live in South Africa, so sorry about that disturbance. There might be a difference in lighting. But before we let you go, so quickly, where can people find you? How do they get in touch with you? What do they search for if they want to go online and search for you? What services do you offer?
Right, so our offices are in Randburg on 272 Oak Avenue, Atrium, Terrace, right across the street from Newsroom Africa. We are on the ground floor. Our office is office number 9. But most of the time, I'm either in court or doing stuff like this.
Yes.
Because I am a fan of educating people. I love educating. I think that's why my voice is lent on very different platforms. I want people to know what they're getting themselves into. But anyway, our offices are in Randburg. You can either call our landline 087-265-8010. Wonderful lady Kathy will answer your phone and, you know, guide you in terms of whatever you need. And if you need to secure an appointment, she knows my diary better than myself. And then if I'm not around to consult, then we have a wonderful lady, a candidate attorney. She's living with us here. Lerato, she'll be there to consult with you as well. Otherwise, send an email to info@dubazanaattorneys.co.za. We are on all social medias, Facebook, Instagram. Oh, not all. So it's Facebook and Instagram. There is no Twitter for Dubazana Attorneys. For now, I know our website is still being fixed. I will check if it has been fixed, but there is a website. It is www.dubazanaattorneys.co.za. And we have a WhatsApp number, 079-654-7523. So if you're struggling to get through via email or via phone, you can send a quick WhatsApp. There will be a response with all of that information. And our firm practices in family law. For family law covers maintenance, children's court, divorce, all of those things. That's what family law is. And then criminal law, which is my favorite, is a lot less complicated. I love criminal law, but I'm not getting enough criminal clients, but it's okay. And then we do labor matters as well. So that varies from bargaining council matters, CCMA matters, labor court matters. We are your people to go to. We also do general civil litigation, which includes what we're talking about today, which is contracts. So anything in terms of civil, eviction, insolvency, civil. Any civil litigation, general, we take it and all of that. And the beauty of all of that is that I also have a right of appearance in the High Court. So this is why I want to mention this. Usually counsel advocates are the ones that appear in the High Court, and attorneys brief counsel to appear on their behalf. I have a right of appearance in the High Court, so I do all my High Court matters. Unless, of course, I find it so complicated that I have to brief counsel, but otherwise I take on my own High Court matters. So that's less expensive for the client because counsel can be very expensive. So yes, that is basically what we are about.
Black girl magic.
Yeah!
Black girl magic, I love it. And you guys, I just want you guys to see this book. She showed me this book earlier. It's so thick, I can't get my eyes off it.
And it's actually not the thickest one. You should see my library in there. There's 8 of these. So this one, as you can see, it's volume 5. Ne? So there's 8 of these, the bottom was, and to show that it's not full, you see this space here. See the space? It should not exist. So this book is actually not complete. Yeah, which means there's going to be new things that are going to be added in all these different headings that are here. Because here in this one, there's access to information, advertising, contracts on advertising. There is administration of estates. There is contracts on session, contracts on citizenship. Look at entertainment law. This is entertainment law on its own.
Girl.
And then this is the section on tax and all of that. There's and for labor, I think we're now saying we got just the cover, by the way, just this thing without the content. We got it last week. So that makes it 10 books for just labor. So there's the Employment Equity Act, the LRA, the BCAA, and then there is all these other occupational hazards and all of that. So that's 9 books alone than this. And then there is we had a section on family law, and that's about 3 books. And then we have a section on the magistrate courts, because the laws change. They keep updating and adding. And then there's one section for the superior courts, that is basically the high courts. And then there's one section for criminal law and all of that. So I always tell my candidate attorney, I'm like, in order for you, when a client calls or they come for a consultation, they can't explain to you over the phone what is happening. When you're sitting with them, you should be able to pick up what is happening. And the only way you can do that is reading. Our profession is just reading. That's all it is.
I can see that. I love reading, guys. I love reading, but hey,
I don't know. All we do is read here. Yesterday, I had a client that walked in with 8 different issues. New client, 8 different issues. And as you know, when they're speaking on each issue, you're like noting, you're like, okay, this one goes from this book. I'm going to go to that book too, because I've seen it. Even if I didn't read it in depth, I saw it here. And all of that, I was telling my candidate, that's what you need. It's a skill you develop, obviously, over time, but you have to read.
Yeah.
And case law is very important because it changes the trajectory of what the law is. And if you don't know recent case law, you are in a mess. You are in a complete mess. You can't advise your client properly because it means you're not up to date with the law.
Yeah, and they'll show you up
Yay!
in court. Yeah, and if the lawyer you're going up against is prepared, they will show you up in court. So it's advisable to get lawyers who are passionate about their jobs like this one. Hey, I know.
You can't.
To think there's 7 more of these.
Yes. 7
My
more.
goodness.
And mini textbooks as well. For example, criminal law, there's one authority, Sneyman. In my library, I have 5th, 6th, and 7th edition. Apparently, there's an 8th. And all of them, I've read through them all so that I know what is happening. So when I don't have a lot of work, all I do is just pick a book and read and read and read. But I can be able to have these kinds of conversations without going, Kana.
Yeah, you can be confident about your job because you know you're speaking the truth and you're speaking facts.
Yeah.
And that's very important because then it's such people that get you out of the troubles that we get ourselves into because we don't like reading. And this is actually a serious conversation that we need to have as society because just a couple of weeks back there was a research that came out that says that I don't want to say the percentage because I'm not entirely sure at this moment, but it's a very high percentage of specifically grade 4 South African learners who cannot read with understanding. So that means they just read, but they don't understand what's written in there. And that's a serious problem. Now, we're no longer joking. It's a very serious problem that I think we should be concerned about and we should take action against or to rectify it. And we can only do that if we educate each other. It's not a crime to not know, but it is a crime to know well, not really a crime, but it is like a serious thing to know about something and not share the information with other people or not do anything about it to rectify it. So let's just work together, guys, to inform each other, to educate each other. There's things that I don't know. I'm a journalist, but there's things that like this I don't know. I will need her to tell me about the law. And I can share with her some of the journalistic things that she would need to know to tackle some of the issues that she tackles, because she does represent, maybe she will have a client in the future who's in the media industry or who is just in the journalism industry or anything like that, and she could possibly use some of the information that I would have given to her. So go to school, listen to your teachers, and those who are adults, just read stuff before you sign. If you don't understand, call someone up who better understands that topic than you, preferably a lawyer, a registered lawyer, so that you don't get yourself into situations that you will be misused or be enslaved or anything that is bad. We don't want that. All we want is to build a beautiful South Africa that is full of educated, nice Africans. So thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode. Eskom has decided to join the party.
Hey, Eskom
decided to join the party, but we hope that you enjoyed this part of the show, and we'll be having more of her in the show in the future. We'll be hoping for that. We'll be having more of her on the show. She is a busy bee, so we'll see. Whenever we're able to get in touch with her, we'll definitely bring her on the show. So if you have any topics
that you'd like us to discuss with her somewhere down the future, just hit us up on the comment section. Let us know what you'd like her to tackle next time she is on the show, and she'll definitely do that. I will make sure to read up on it as well so that I'm not clueless. Yeah, but besides that, thank you so much guys for joining us. Do help us by subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and sharing it with your friends and family. Let people know about Dubazana Attorneys. All the information that she gave out will be written on the screen, and also I will write it on the description box below, so that whenever you are in need of a lawyer, you can get in touch with her or her people. But otherwise, until next time, goodbye and God bless. So what happens in a case where like someone wants somebody else's earrings but they don't have the money to pay? Well, even if they do have the money to pay for them, but they don't want to pay for them, they just want the earrings. Do they need a lawyer, or can they just take them?
If it's something as simple as that, you can reduce it to a small a piece of paper and agree on it and both parties sign, stuff like that.
What if the other one is the lawyer?
Hey!
But this other one has a sense that the lawyer one will not want to give away the earrings.
Hey!
So what do we do?
Oh, is this you now wanting my earrings? You are sly. You are sly.
I got you, and I don't even have like earring or like piercings, but anyway.
Wow.